My mom became pregnant with me when she was 15 years old. And while she was pregnant with me, her father, who was the local trash collector in a small town in central Pennsylvania, drove into that town square. He spotted two police officers there. He stuck a gun out the window and opened fire on those police officers, killing one and critically wounding another. And eventually, my grandfather was captured and brought to stand trial, where he was facing the death penalty for what he had done. And during his trial, my mom got up and testified to the jury that the reason that her father had shot and killed that police officer was that that police officer had raped her. And she was now pregnant with his baby, who was me. And my mom's testimony worked. The first trial ended in a hung jury. Eventually, the state took the death penalty off the table. And the second trial, my grandfather was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, where he went and spent the rest of his life, more than 40 years behind bars, leaving behind, my mom, her 15 brothers and sisters, and now me to deal with the consequences in this small town. And if you've ever been in a small town, people are up in your business and they know everything about you. And they definitely, this trial that happened was the biggest thing that ever happened, in this county. And so everybody knew who we were and who I was. And unfortunately, my life didn't get any easier. I'm born to a 15-year-old mother, which is, hard enough, very poor. And eventually, though, my mom meets a man who would become my stepfather. And come to find out, he was an alcoholic, very physically and emotionally abusive to me and my mom almost on a daily basis, and had to deal with that. Eventually, my mom and stepfather had 4 children in quick succession. So now, because of their lifestyle, a lot of the basic needs of my siblings is falling upon me as the oldest, from diaper changing to bottle feeding to waking up at 2 a.m. to put crying babies back to sleep. Because of this lifestyle that we're living, school is definitely not a priority in our family. My mom would rather me stay home and help her with the kids instead of go to school. And I remember, in elementary school, that last day of school, when you go and you get your report card and you see who you're going to have for homeroom the next year, and if your buddies are going to be in class with you. And I remember looking down at my report card the last day of 4th grade and seeing that I had had straight F's, and that I wouldn't be going on to the 5th grade, that I had flunked the 4th grade and would be held back. And, at this time of my life, I'd probably missed 60 days of school that year. I couldn't read, I couldn't write, I couldn't spell. The following year, I got placed into special ed so that I could get the help that I needed. Come to find out that I had dyslexia. And so that's kind of the way that my life went for a few years. And then one day, my stepfather was walking home drunk from a bar, and there was somebody else driving home drunk from that bar, and they ended up hitting and killing him. And as hard as my mom's life has been with him, losing my stepfather broke my mom. My mom dropped out of school in the 8th grade, never worked outside of the home. And now here she is with 5 young children. And no matter how many different angles she looked at this, there was no way that she could figure out how she was going to care for all 5 of us. And it was at this time that she decided she was going to take her own life. And my mom attempted suicide. And fortunately, she was not successful. But when she did get out of the hospital after the suicide attempt, that was at the time that my family ended up getting split up. And I went to go live with my grandmother, who was the wife of the man who shot and killed the police officer. And for the first time in my life, I didn't have to worry about, my stepfather coming home and beating me or my mom. And I didn't have to worry about no food in the house. Didn't have to worry about the lights turning on and heat in the house in the wintertime. And I started to reflect upon, geez, what am I here for? What am I going to do with my life? Why is all this stuff happening to me? And I started to see the direction that I was heading, and I didn't like it. One day, a counselor came from the local university and talked about what it would take to get into college. And I remember thinking to myself, man, if I could go to college, as soon as I got my degree, my life would be easy from that point on. And that was my mindset. And you know what happens whenever you have that, you think of doing something that's going to be difficult and hard. That voice in the back of your head just starts screaming at you all the reasons that you shouldn't even attempt what you're doing. And I remember thinking, as soon as I thought, I'm going to get a college degree, I thought, you know what, Nelson, you're in special ed. You can't read, you can't write, you can't spell, you have dyslexia. Of the family that I came from, of my mom's 15 brothers and sisters, 2 had graduated high school. None had even attended college. But I saw where I was going. I didn't like it. And I thought, what do I have to lose? So from that day on, I started doing what I thought I needed to do to get into college. And it took 12 years. It took 4 different universities. It took 4 years in the United States Air Force. But eventually I became that first member in my family to get a college degree.
Wow. Wow. Well, thanks for sharing your story, Nelson. And I can't imagine, even to begin to imagine what all the challenges that you faced. And I'm sure that maybe there's a listener out there that can relate to somewhat of your story. I mean, we all face certain challenges, but you really were born with the cards in the deck stacked way against you. And you had that goal. So, like, what did it mean, like, when you really did graduate college, getting that diploma? Like, what was that to you?
Yeah, you know what that did was it really opened my eyes to realize that, hey, I can do hard things if I put my mind to it. And I felt like, if I could do this with a goal, like, and I didn't even really know what goals were, or developing yourself, personal development or anything like that. But when I graduated college and got out, that's when I became obsessed with goals and personal development. I saw what a huge difference it could make. And over the last 25 years, I've been obsessed, and I've used goals in every area of my life to build this life that I'm living today, a life that, I couldn't have even imagined 40 years ago. I literally pinch myself some mornings just thinking, how am I, someone like me who came from where I came from, living this life? And it's really living a life with focus and knowing what you want, and then going after it each and every day, and just working on becoming that better version of yourself. Because that version of me, who lived in that small town, he couldn't be living this life that I'm living. And, what I've done is I've really worked on becoming a better version of myself, a version of myself that can achieve my life's biggest goals. And I continue to do that each and every day.
Wow, that's awesome. I want to ask you this, just kind of take yourself back. So you had a lot of negativity around you, people that were dragging you down. You didn't have a lot of role models, people that had achieved success, it doesn't sound like. Did you have anybody, though, in your life that was a voice of encouragement during all that time?
Yeah, I had 2. When I moved in with my grandmother, when I was born, my mom still lived with my grandmother. She was 15 years old. So I lived there for the first few years of my life, and me and my grand had a special bond. And then when I moved back in with my grandmother after my mom's suicide attempt, but my grand, pretty much every single day of my life, she would look at me with those, eyes and just passion and say, Nelson, you're going to make something of yourself. And she said it so strongly and believed it so certainly that I loved her so much that I wanted to prove her right. And I think that was a lot of my drive. And then I also got placed into the Big Brother, Big Sister program. And I had a big brother who was going to Penn State University, and he came down and for a few years while he was at school just kind of showed me some contrast, the way that other families lived and what you could do with your life if you went to college and did all of that. And I'm still in contact with him and his wife and their children today. So they've had a huge influence on me, of kind of showing me, other options out there. And I think that definitely helped me as well.
Yeah. And it's kind of what you're doing today. I've heard of the Big Brother, Big Sister program. I think it's awesome to kind of come alongside and be a mentor to someone. I'm a I'm sure you are too, as you mentor people, you mentor entrepreneurs yourself. And I'm always looking for myself as mentors for my kids. I'm like, okay, who's someone that could help guide them and mentor them? Sounds like you've had that. Thank you so much for checking out the Brett Snodgrass channel. If you like this video, please slam on that like button. And if you really like it, then subscribe to our channel here. And remember to leave us a comment below, and I'm going to try my hardest to reply to all the comments. Thank you guys so much. This is why I do what I do. Every single week, I come out with content that focuses on success, freedom, and living out your purpose. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.